Okay, guys, our next day of learning. So today we're going to be doing the magic numbers, is what they call this. So we're going to be getting started on factoring, which is a pretty big deal. You guys did factoring with GCFs, and then we're doing some other types of factoring now. But for our warm-up, we're doing that double distributive property for the first one. So remember, this is where we do x times x. Well, x times x is x squared. X times 4 is 4x. And then we do the same thing with the inner. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 4 is 12. Remember, it's the middle terms. They're like terms, so we're going to add those together. So we end up with x squared plus 4 plus 3 is 7x plus 12. And that is what happens when we double distribute. Now this next one looks very similar to this, and it looks like it could be the same answer. But notice that there's no parentheses around the x plus 3. So the only thing that's actually touching the parentheses is the 3, and that's what you have to distribute in. So you have x plus 3x, and then plus 3 times 4, which is 12. Our like terms are now these two. That gives me 4x plus 12. So be careful. Remember, with the distributive property, it's what's touching that x. So the first one, the whole two parentheses are touching it, so we're double distributing. But here, it's just the 3. So we just distribute the 3 through. So our next thing says find two numbers. So this whole part is us finding two numbers that multiply and add. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply. So that's what the M stands for, to 6. And then add to 5. So factors of 6 are going to be 1 times 6. What else multiplies to give me 6? Well, that's going to be 2 and 3. So which one of these add to give me 5? Does 1 plus 6 add to give me 5, or does 2 plus 3 add to give me 5? We know that 2 plus 3 adds to give me 5. So that's the one I'm interested in. Here we're interested in what multiplies to give us. Ooh, sorry about that. I don't know if you guys can see me moving that or not. What multiplies to give me 15 and adds to give me 8. So we're looking for factors of 15. Well, factors of 15 are 1 and 15. 2 does not go in because it's not even, but 3 does. 3 goes into 15 5 times. We see 4 doesn't go in, and then we're back at the other one. So then we start back at 5, so it'd be 5 and 3, and then 15 and 1. So which one of these add to give me 8? Does 1 plus 15 give me 8, or does 3 plus 5 give me 8? Well, we know 3 plus 5 gives us 8. Okay, now we're looking for two numbers that multiply to give me 24 and adds to give me 14. So I have 1 and 24. I have 2 and 12. 3 and 8. And then we go to 4 and 6. Okay? And then we start back over. 5 doesn't go in. And we'd have 6 and 4, 8 and 3, 12 and 2. So those are the same factors, 24 and 1. So which one of these add to give me 14? Well, we see this one would add to give you 25. This one would add to give you 14. This one would add to give you 11. This one would add to give you 10. And so here, the one we're looking for is that 2 and 12. Is this making sense? Do you guys have any questions? Please feel free to comment on this or email me or message me. I'll make sure that you guys are understanding the material. Okay, the next one up is multiplies to give you 15 and adds to give you a negative 16. So the key here is, you notice this is negative, but the two numbers have to multiply to be a positive number. So the only way that can occur is if both of the numbers were negative. So we know that factors of 15 are going to be 1 and 15, or negative 1 times negative 15, or we could have 3 and 5, which would be negative 3 and negative 5. So when we add these together, negative 1 plus negative 15 will give me a negative 16. These would give me a negative 8. So the one I'm looking for is that negative 1, negative 15. So remember to look at that multiply. If it would have been negative, then we could have the option of one of the numbers being negative. But here we have where both of the numbers have to be negative because it adds to a negative number and it multiplies to a positive number. Okay. Here again, we have where it multiplies to a positive number and then adds to a negative number. So what we're going to be looking for is two negative numbers multiplied together. So we're going to do factors of 30. It would be 1 and 30. So that would be negative 1, negative 30. We have negative 2 and negative 15. 2 and 15 give me 30. 3 and 10 give me 30. Again, we're making them both negative because that makes that positive 30. 4 doesn't go into it. 5 does, though. Negative 5 and negative 6. So we're interested to see which one of these add to give me 13. So negative 1 plus negative 30 gives me negative 31. Negative 2 plus negative 15 gives me negative 17. Negative 3 plus negative 10 gives me negative 13, which is the one I'm looking for. But I'll do this last one just for completion. So negative 5, negative 6, negative 11. So what I'm looking for is negative 3, negative 10. Notice that's a 10. Okay, here some things are different. We have a negative number here. For it to be negative, we could have a positive times a negative, or a negative times a positive. And then we need to add to give us negative 3. So we're going to do factors of 10. So we have 1 and 10. And we have 2 and 5. There's no other factors. So remember, this could be where negative 1 is negative and 10 is positive. Or it could be where 1 is positive and negative 10, or 10 is negative. Or we could have where negative 2 is negative, or the 2 is negative, and the 5 is positive. Or we could have where the 2 is positive, and then the 5 is negative. So we're going to add these together. So when we add, negative 1 plus 10 is 9. Negative 2 plus 5 is a positive 3. So that one looks close, but we're adding together negative 3. This one would give me a negative 9. And this one would give me 2 plus negative 5, negative 3. So the one we're actually interested in here is that 2 and negative 5. But remember, we have to account for both options. So since it multiplies to a negative, either the first term or the second term could be negative. So we accounted for that by showing two different lists. Let's try it again on the next one. So again, we have multiplies to give you a negative number. So that could be a negative times a positive. Make that a better plus sign. Or it could have been a positive times a negative. And we want to add to give me a positive 7. So multiples of 18, I'm just going to list them out as they are. So 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. We see that 4 doesn't go into it, 5 doesn't go into it, and then we're back at 6. So that's my list. Our first terms could be negative, so negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Or we could have had it where it was 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. And the negatives go on the second term. And then we're going to add them up. So again, we're going to add these. So negative 1 plus 18 is 17. Negative 2 plus 9 is 7. And you see here, we really don't have to continue on. We already got one that's going to add to 7. That's this one. I'll go on just to be safe. Negative 3 and 6. That's 3. 1 plus negative 18, that's negative 17. 2 plus negative 9, that's negative 7. And then 3 plus negative 6 is going to give me negative 3. So the only one that gives me that positive 7 is that negative 2 and 9. We only have 2 examples left. Now we're looking for something that multiplies to give me a positive. It adds to give me a negative. The only way that can occur is negative, negative. So when we do this, we're going to list our factors both negative. So we have 1 and 14, or 2 and 7. We'll put negatives on all of them because that's the only way we add to get a negative and multiply to get a positive. So when we add these, so we're adding negative 1 plus negative 14. Oh, sorry guys, I got really distracted and just started doing the other one. I'm multiplying to get 45. So 1 and 45. 2 doesn't go into it. We can do 3. 3 goes into it. 1 and 15. So 3 and 15. Okay, 4 does not go into it, but 5 does. 5 goes into this 9 times. 6 does not go into 45. 7 does not go into 45. 8 does not go into 45, but 9 does. And again, remember, for it to add to be negative, both of them have to be negative. So this gives me negative. We're going to add them. So negative 46. This gives me negative 18. And this gives me negative 14. That's the one I'm looking for. So remember, guys, you kind of have to work through that logic. If it's multiplying to give you a positive number, but adding to give you a negative number, they both have to be negative. Okay, and here's our last one for today. We want to multiply to give me a negative. So remember, to multiply to get a negative, it could be negative times a positive, or a positive times a negative. And then we want to add to be a negative 5. So multiplies to give me 6. That could be 1 and 6, or 2 and 3. So it could be where the first term was negative, or it could be where the second term was negative. Okay, adds to give you A negative 5 is what I'm looking for. So 1, negative 1 plus 5. Nope, let's try again. Negative 1 plus 6 is 5. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. 1 plus negative 6 is a negative 5. So right here, I have found the winner. But I'll do the last one just in case. 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1. So the only two that multiply to give me a negative 6 and add to give me a negative 5 is 1 and negative 6. So please ask me questions, guys, and then also feel free to do that through Google Hangouts, through comments on the YouTube channel, or through our Google Classroom. I want to make sure you're getting the help that you need. Let me know how this is going.